Hi guys, I wanted to jump on here and do a quick update episode related to a case I spoke about in episode 5, which is the murder of Alicia Showalter Reynolds and the Route 29 stalker. In that episode, I referenced a crime that happened a year earlier in similar proximity to Route 29 stalker, and also because the case had some overlapping suspects with the Route 29 stalker and Alicia's killer. That case is the May of 1996 double murder of Laura, also known as Lolly Winans, and Julie Ann, or Julie Williams. That couple, they'd been camping in the remote bridle trail of the Shenandoah National Park and just outside of Skyland Resort. Police really believed that somebody trailed them after they had been at Skyland, stopping for supplies and food and whatnot. And as they made their way out of Skyland and set up in this remote wilderness camp, they were brutally murdered in their tent. And this has been unsolved for decades now. And back in late 2001, police had arrested a man who had assaulted and harassed a bicyclist a year after the killings on Skyland Drive. And his name was Daryl David Rice. He had basically run that bicyclist off the road, threatened to kidnap her, and so they arrested him, and he served time for that. And he ultimately said he was battling mental illness, had a bad day. But police had done a lot of questionable things to try to prove his guilt because they just thought there's no way that somebody who committed this crime in such close proximity to where the homicide happened didn't have anything to do with it. And they had actually found that he had been in the park around the dates that Julie and Lolly had been there and presumably were murdered. They've never been able to truly fully with certainty pinpoint the exact date of their murder because they had been missing a couple days. But anyways, they had done things like planted jailhouse informant, tried to get him to make statements against the LGBTQ community. And at one point he said, the police are trying to say I hate gay people. But they cut that off. They cut the beginning part off so that it sounded like he said, I hate gay people. Ultimately, DNA evidence excluded him, but some of the original investigators felt he got off on a technicality and they felt that he was still involved. Catherine Miles wrote a whole book about this case called Trailed, and it's really good. I just read it in the past few months. And in it, she discusses a lot about Rice's innocence, but also sheds light on what seemed to be a good suspect to her and others, and that was serial killer Richard Ivanitz. He was operating in the area at the time in Spotsylvania County, and some earlier forms of forensic testing that they had done had not been able to eliminate him from being at the scene. It's not as drilled down on as DNA testing is now, but I want to say off the top of my head, I can't with certainty, but it was something about the hair found on the duct tape compared to his hair. So she also talks a lot about the political underpinnings of trying to come out tough on LGBTQ crime, but the collateral damage of trying to then frame the wrong person and how that doesn't really work out. Both Rice and Ivanitz have been considered Route 29 suspects, but just in the last week, the FBI announced that new DNA testing was able to identify the killer of Lolly and Julie. They had an initial hit a few years ago in 2021, but continued further testing just to be conclusive. And now they felt confident to say that this is certainly the killer, and they can at least provide answers. I always hate saying closure because I don't even know how to really define that. And I know a lot of families say they resent that word, but just answers that have been long awaited. The killer is Walter Leo Jackson Sr. He would have been 49 at the time of the Shenandoah killings, so he'd be a little old for the Route 29 stalker profile that they had done, and he doesn't look like the composite sketch at all. Jackson is a serial rapist, and he died in prison in 2018. He has a really long, terrible rap sheet. He was a painter by trade, but he was an avid hiker in Shenandoah National Park. His crimes occurred mostly in the Cleveland, Ohio area and included kidnappings and sexual assaults. So first, I just want to say I'm so happy for the families. Happy, I guess, is maybe the wrong word, but just relieved that they're able to get some answers. And I can't imagine how much torture they've been feeling not knowing all of these years. But secondly, I just want you to remember that the whole reason they have recycled the same suspects is because police and citizens have largely concluded that it's just too much of a coincidence that this many people would have been operating and committing violent crimes in such a small area at the same time. And not only were they, but this is a whole new additional person that's never been talked about in any of the cases. And there are still unsolved crimes in the Culpeper area and in Spotsylvania County and in all parts of this area of Virginia. And Virginia is not just some randomly violent state. This is everywhere. So we don't need to live in fear. But I think operating with the knowledge that people like this are out there, that they were back then in quote unquote simpler times, and they still exist now. And it helps us to just be empowered in whatever decisions we make and whatever our own personal threat and risk assessments are, because it's just a reality. So I wanted to provide that quick update. Obviously, this isn't a full or regular episode, and I'm going to be off for the next couple of weeks. This is unfolding, and I probably won't do another update episode unless something breaks through related to this with Alicia's case. But if I find more information out as it gets released, I will put some on our Instagram. So go follow that at Simpler Time Crime Pod, and have a great day.